Hey, Facebook world. All right. Or if you're watching the replay, maybe it's YouTube. Well, here we are. I am 1 year into using TechnoTutor, the learning software, the tool that you use to learn anything and learn it fast. And I'm here going to talk about a few things from how I use TechnoTutor overall in my life to improve my life, and the dramatic results I've got from just using it every day. I'm going to go into business, how I use TechnoTutor to support myself to make more money, how I have used TechnoTutor to uh, improve my relationships on all fronts, and create a relationship with now my partner, where her and I are now committed to getting married, going through all of life together, and basically creating our dreams together. And so I'll show exactly how I did that, how I use TechnoTutor to support myself with health and reaching my health goals and well-being overall, and then the happiness and all the um, good feelings basically that you get from when your whole life is working in order. And I'm not saying I'm here and I'm perfect and I'm without fault by any means, but if you were to see me a year ago and see the kind of stuff that I was getting stuck on, and just the amount of time I was wasting every single day overthinking things and thinking twice and judging myself, and just really being delusional with how I thought reality worked, uh, to now, I am 1,000 times, I'm a million times more effective. It's not even a comparison. And it is because of my use of TechnoTutor. TechnoTutor didn't do it to me. It can't do anything to anyone. You're the one using the tool. And what the tool does, for those who aren't aware at all of what TechnoTutor is it's a education software. I mean, it's much more than that, but it's a way for you to rapidly learn anything and put it into the knowing part of your brain. For example, if I were to ask you what's 17 times 32, right? You probably have to think about that and you can get to the answer. Then if I were to ask you, what's your name? Did you have to think about that? No, you just know your name. So that's what TechnoTutor does, is it brings everything to that knowing part of your brain and creating direct access memories. I mean, there's a whole science behind it, but what I'm here to talk about is my experience with TechnoTutor. So now, just before I jump in to the actual topics I want to discuss, let me just ask you this. How many products and services have you seen where a year later, the person is getting even more benefit from it? They're talking about it. They're using it even more. Like, that's not common. Let's be honest. Most people buy a product or a service, they use it for a few months, get kind of tired of it, toss it aside, and then they're on to the next one. Now with TechnoTutor, it is 100% different, because this is a tool that's building your ability to process and hold on to information that supports you in navigating the world. And especially now, it's becoming very obvious that the world is unlike it's ever been in the past. I mean, not even talking about the rate in which automation and technology is disrupting the vast majority of industries, but just look at coronavirus. I mean, 1 year ago, if you were to say, oh, yeah, in a year, everyone's going to be wearing masks, they're going to do distance learning, social distancing is going to be a thing, like we didn't see it coming. But now it's a very different world. New industries are popping up, a lot of things are falling by the wayside. And that is undeniable that that's happening. But with using TechnoTutor specifically, using TechnoTutor, because there's nothing else like it, that tool has supported me to see what's really going on. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like able to see like what is the virus actually and all this stuff, but I'm able to see these trends and these patterns and how people are reacting and responding to coronavirus and everything that's happening. And now I can see where it's headed. I see what the future of education looks like. I see what the future of social media looks like, censorship, all of that. And it's because I'm just able to read and see and process information at literally, it's like 10,000 times what it used to be. And I was a fairly smart person before. I mean, I would read 60 or 70 books a year, but I wasn't really retaining the information. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever read a book and by the bottom of the page, you look back and you say, wait, what did I just read? And you go back to the top of the book and you do that again. Okay, that never happens to me anymore because I use TechnoTutor, because those words are programmed into the unconscious and the conscious. So I'm able to just process what's happening. So I don't have to think about it. I just read and I learn and I apply it in my life and I get results. It's freaking awesome. And I'll get into those results in just a moment. But I want to set that groundwork for explaining why this tool is not just some child's plaything or not just some little thing that you can use with kids, even though the results are phenomenal. And we have a 3.5-year-old who's literally learning how to program computers now. He has electronic circuits and toys and things like that. And that's not because he's special. It's just because his parents know what they're doing and they use TechnoTutor. And we have results for days about that. But just look on YouTube, and there's a playlist on Cameron Cope's profile, and it's talking about real TechnoTutor user experiences. So you can see from other people too. This is not just me, but I'm doing my follow-up testimonial now that it's been over a year of me using TechnoTutor. I got it back in August 4th of 2019. Now, as of today, it's August 12th of 2020. So here is the real deal. TechnoTutor exposed. All the secrets revealed, right? Okay. Well, this is beyond the hype, and because, like I said, any product that's out there, the people usually use hype to sell it, and it's valuable and it's like a shiny object for a little while, and then it disappears. But there are people who have been using TechnoTutor way longer than I have, and they keep using it and keep getting even more results. There's a compound interest effect going on here. It's cumulative. TechnoTutor is working on your vocabulary, meaning the words you use and understand to make sense of the world around you. And now when you build in more and more words, I mean, we've all heard this, that CEOs of big companies and world leaders, they read a lot. They read 60, 70 books a year. It's because the more information they can process, the better decisions they can make. Have you ever looked at what Bill Gates does on vacation? He'll get books and books full of bags, and he'll go to a cabin and he'll just read all these books. And you wonder why he's one of the richest guys in the world still. Warren Buffett spends 6 to 8 hours a day reading, and he's, I think, the second richest guy in the world. One of them, top 5, I believe, still. It's because, well, why? Why would these really, really rich and powerful people read all the time? Well, answer that one for yourself, and I'm sure as you stay tuned, the answer will become obvious. Okay, I just took a few notes here, so because I don't want to miss anything. I'm going to cover a lot here. Okay, think about this. Now that I've been using TechnoTutor for a while, the biggest benefit that I've noticed, specifically now tying into practically how is my thinking and my way of being different, is I catch myself. Have you ever said something stupid and then you regretted saying it? Maybe you snapped at your spouse or your child or something like that, and you're like, oh, wish I didn't say that. Okay, now with TechnoTutor, because my ability to process information has gone up, I can now see that thought come up. And a lot of those thoughts are just gone now because you just reprogram it. That takes a little time, but those thoughts are gone now. So now the thoughts that are still there, or the deeper seated thoughts, pop up. And in that moment, where it could turn into an argument, or I could breathe and ask a clarifying question. Well, now I catch those thoughts coming up and I don't react to them. And then I just direct myself in that situation to the best outcome. So it's not emotional, it's just practical. Now that's nice, right? Okay, cool. You probably have less arguments in your life. No, that's why I'm making way more money in my business now, because I don't make stupid emotional decisions anymore. When in the past, I would be afraid of making certain decisions because I could risk losing money here, or I could risk this, and I was uncertain and afraid, and so I would just make a decision out of fear. But making decisions out of fear is not best. I mean, look at look at anyone who's exceeding at any level in the world, whether it's in business, or I've been listening to a lot of interviews from Navy SEALs recently, and they talk about never make a decision in fear. you got to get that fear out. And now I've seen you can actually get that fear out. And TechnoTutor has been a phenomenal tool for doing that. And for anyone who has TechnoTutor watching this, reach out. I am happy to share lists. I'm happy to jump on calls and talk about this because this stuff works. That's why I'm making this video. So yeah, I have been making way less stupid decisions, and I still have a growth curve. But I mean, right now I run 4 different businesses. They're all growing despite the fact that it's the coronavirus economy. And I mean, that just in itself is testament to your ability to effectively handle the world and process information and make effective decisions. That is that's a direct result of your ability to process information. Okay, yeah, I've read this book. I've read over, or this year, I've read over 40 books. I right before COVID, I went ham at the public library. I was like, yeah, I could order a bunch of books on Amazon, but some of them end up not being very good. And I ordered, like, I maxed out what my library card let me do. I think I had 45 books, and then COVID happened, so I couldn't return them, at least up until like last week. So since about February or March, whenever that happened, through last week, I had read between 40 and 45 books. And I'm saying, like, I actually read them. And yes, you skim parts of the book, but I took in the information. And it has been so freaking helpful for me to understand what's going on in the world, understanding systems at a higher level, and all sorts of things like that, where now I can position myself, because there's different probabilities of what's going to happen. One could be coronavirus round 2 comes and hits us harder. One could be things open up and then people, have more money to spend and things like that. But I can now see all of these different patterns. And that is, I mean, does that sound valuable? Would you want to be able to see patterns, or do you want to be blind to patterns? You tell me. Okay. Also, now I want to talk about, this is so cool. Okay. So TechnoTutor in the mainstream, I guess it's not mainstream at this point in time, but one of the ways in the types of people that is really effective for supporting is parents, or if you have children in your life. You may not be a direct parent, but supporting kids to learn. Now, I've seen this time and time again with kids. Drake, who's one of the other distributors of TechnoTutor, is using TechnoTutor in a daycare with 15 kids. And it is the coolest thing to hear that these kids now are developing a love of learning. 6-7 minutes a day. It's not 8 hours a day like the normal classroom, 6 to 7 minutes a day, learning the alphabet, numbers, basic words, to the point where now they're sharing, opening up even more. Because the coolest thing is when you're using TechnoTutor and you start increasing your ability to recognize and interpret patterns and increase your ability to process information, then your ability to express and articulate yourself goes up. And we've seen this with kids who are English speakers, kids who grew up speaking Spanish. Then they start using TechnoTutor. Not only do they start speaking English more effectively, they speak their native language even more too, because they have access to those words, and then it just flows. And it is phenomenal. I mean, those kids, their life will be different because of just even a few days a week using the tool for, like I said, 6 to 7 minutes a day. I've seen a 1.5-year-old now able to speak in complex sentences. For instance, so I was with Drake and some other people down in Houston, and the little girl, her name's Seneca, 18 months. She's 18 months at the time, and she goes, "Drake, look at this bracelet." Okay, if you know anything about language development, that's something that a 1.5-year-old, 18-month-old is not normally able to say, but she's just been supported to understand language. And what do you think that's going to result in down the road? I mean, that's real effective support as a parent. And if you're a parent and you want to hear more about how to do that, we can have a one-on-one conversation, because this is what it's really about. Supporting the next generation of kids to be able to handle this world where social distancing may be the new norm. Not leaving your home may be the new norm. I mean, people now don't even trust the air they breathe. I've seen videos of people like freaked out about going on subways and things like that because you can't trust the air. And I mean, I'm not going to go into coronavirus and all that on here, but it's a very different world. And there's been time and time again, they've shown in research that the more you can build a child's vocabulary, that is the most accurate indicator of future success or failure in life, is how many words is that child exposed to in those foundational years, primarily age 0 to 7 or 0 to 5. Well, good thing TechnoTutor literally has the entire English language, I mean, up through Harvard courses, all put in to learn those words in a rapid and efficient way. So even if your kid is smart and your kid's already into advanced things, well, imagine how much further they can go when you can build in the vocabulary of what they want to learn in a high-speed way. That's what this is about as well, supporting kids from all walks of life. And the one other thing before we jump into the business specifically is the other types of people that have come into the mix now. So like I said, TechnoTutor, yeah, you can use it to support kids, and parents use it and things like that, and it's phenomenal. Now also, I've now had people come on my radar who are aspiring to different levels of success in the world, from running multiple businesses to some want to be billionaires to others want to get into politics, and combinations of all of it. And all of these people see the commonality. Others are opening up community centers to mentor the youth, even here in Minneapolis, and empower kids to realize that knowledge is actually power, and you can learn fast, and you can learn what you want to learn. So then now the library is actually a cool place, and you see the benefit of reading books and becoming financially literate. That's all TechnoTutor. That's what we're about. Yes, it's a tool, but it's a network of people. So now that I've had the honor and privilege of meeting really awesome people, some are still early 20s, but others 30, 40, 50, that are seeing what it means to actually live at a higher potential. And that is just so so fulfilling. I mean, that's for sure, but fulfilling and empowering and inspiring, because now I'm able to support these people with a tool that they can use to develop themselves in whatever way that they need to develop. Because if you weren't raised in politics, but you want to become a politician, you got to develop the vocabulary of a politician. If you want to be a billionaire and your parents weren't billionaires, you got to develop a certain level of vocabulary to get there. And so that's what this is about. And it is, I mean, this is just, like I said, this is still just the beginning. I'm only 1 year in. I'm only 7 or 8 months into being a distributor. And so y'all really ain't seen nothing yet, but I'm gonna still at least show you a bit more of the results. So now let's get into the crux of this. Like I said, this is going to be a little bit of a longer video. So if you have other things to do, come back and watch it in its entirety, because this is a straight up view into the world of what it looks like to be a person who uses TechnoTutor every day and the results that you can get. Okay, so I'm going to jump into business now. And I said a little bit, like, I've noticed now my ability to think and reason, and my ability to catch myself when I have a thought, like self-judgment or doubt, or feeling like I'm a fraud, or feeling like I'm unable to do the thing I got to do, like go stand in front of the room in front of 20 parents. 1 year ago, I would not be able to do that and talk about something meaningful that actually impacts their lives. But now I'm doing that. Talk about a total change in how I carry myself and what I'm able to do. And it's not like it was an overnight jump. And for those of you who have got TechnoTutor and you stopped using it, start using it again. You only notice the benefits when you're using it. I mean, you have years and years of words that got programmed into you through school, through your parents, through media. And if you just start using it for a few weeks, you got a lot in there. But I promise you, I mean, 6 months later, 12 months later, I mean, the results speak for themselves. So think about this now. All right, so now jumping straight into business. Well, one, for myself, I mean, I'm like I said, making way more money during coronavirus than I ever have. In my last testimonial, I discussed how I went from barely making 3K in profit a month to then jumping up to 4 or 5K, then to 10, 20, 30K a month. And now I've reformed that business model. It evolved because I had to switch things up because coronavirus, to now the point where I have 2 stores fully automated and those are growing. So that's not even my main focus. It's just automated stuff in the background. And now I'm building sales teams of 15 to 20 people where I keep them motivated to go out into the world and share things that really matter. And like I said, a year ago, I couldn't even motivate myself. I was screwed, but now my life is drastically improved. I pulled up these 2 stats earlier. So I'm talking about business and money, right? Because people think about money a lot. Well, people think about money so much. I mean, it's many, many times a day that people are thinking about money, worried about money. Here's 2 stats. 77% of people are anxious about money. Yeah. Are you anxious about money? Are you tired of being anxious about money? You want to not be anxious about money? Reach out to me. I'll show you how. 58% of people feel their finances control their lives rather than the other way around. Ooh, yeah. Do you think your finances control you? At times, is it kind of wobbly? Or do you know that you're in control of your finances? Do you have a systematic way to budget and to be aware of how much money's coming in, how much is going out? If you're in debt, do you have a plan to get out of debt? If you're in the surplus, do you have real financial goals of how much you want to make in your life? I will show you exactly how you can do any of that. It's actually quite simple, and I'm doing it myself. So I'm not just making things up. It's real practical experience, and I'll introduce you to other people who are doing this too. But you got to want it. You got to take that responsibility in yourself. So yeah, my business has drastically improved, and it's like a sense of peace of mind that I haven't had either. It was actually more stressful when my business wasn't working than it is now. There's a lot more responsibility, but look at it like this. Okay, imagine your body and your brain is like a computer, okay? And you're trying to run the most up-to-date OS, Mac, Mojave, or Catalina, whatever the newest update is, right? Let's say you're a Windows person, the most up-to-date Windows or whatever. If your circuits in your hard drive is full of a bunch of junk, if you have viruses on your computer, if you haven't done a tune-up on your computer in a while, and you're trying to run the newest version, it's not going to work. Think about that. There's no way you can actually process that information in an effective and efficient amount of time. So the world right now, you're seeing in front of your very eyes, we have a bunch of people walking around with like 1980s laptops trying to keep up with the newest operating systems and updates from the cloud and things like that. And we're actively breaking down. I mean, society is collapsing all around us. But that's what's happening is we were programmed, that whole brain and body that we have was primarily programmed, the vast majority of it between age 0 and 7. It's a phase where you have what's called your natural learning ability. It's how a kid learns how to walk, how to talk, how language, neural pruning is happening. So much is going on in those first 7 years. It's when the key systems in life are laid down. But unfortunately, your parents did not know what they were doing. And so maybe you got put in front of the TV. Maybe you weren't even really around your parents. Maybe you had to go to daycare, whatever it is. Either way, we weren't set up for a world where social distancing, coronavirus, new apps, new notifications, everything being shot at us all at once. We need to upgrade that hardware and software itself. So that's what TechnoTutor is doing, because it's able to get into your unconscious and change that. You can't change what's going on in your unconscious just by thinking about it. That's why positive thinking people aren't doing much. Rather, you can use a tool like TechnoTutor. It'd be like this. If there was some starving child, he came up to you and he said, "Hey, I'm really hungry. I need some food. Like my body hurts. Like I really need some food." You're like, "Okay, yeah, just listen to this positive thinking meditation." The kid would be like, "What?" Like, but that's what you're trying to do if you're a positive thinker, trying to change your life just by thinking. Rather, you got to get food. you got to do something physical that actually changes your body. Because if you're not doing that, you're just going to be, you're just you're going to be deluded. And I was one of the kind of people where for the past 6-7 years I would listen to positive thinking things. I would meditate like an hour a day. I would journal. I would try and do all these things. I spent so much money doing things that didn't work, or I felt good for like a month and then I needed to go back for more, like a drug addict. That is the same thing. You're addicted to the high, the dopamine, serotonin, that thing where you think it's giving you a result, but it's really not. Rather, what TechnoTutor is doing is fundamentally changing you on a programming level on the inside, which is actually held in your body. So that is how TT has supported me with business, is because I'm able to just handle what's going on and I just see what I should do. And yeah, there's still times that I fall, but now I learn the lessons too. I'm not afraid of failing. I just learned the lesson. I don't emotionally react anymore, or it's subtle now, and I notice when it comes up, and then I have the right way to work through it. So hands down, TechnoTutor has helped me make a ton of money. And 1 year later from now, I will make another video and I will share more how it's helping me make more money. Cool. All right. Now, next part, relationships and community. I'll tie that together. So relationships in general. Well, one, the people who are part of TechnoTutor are freaking awesome. If you haven't met Kian, Asif, Drake, Cameron, his wife Katie, just phenomenal group of people, because we all actually care. We all actually care about the biggest problems in the world, like the fact that there's systemic issues going on, money, wealth inequality, all these things going on in the world, and we are addressing it at the root cause, which is how a child and an individual is educated to understand how the world works. Think about this. How could you possibly change the world on a systemic level without having a better, higher level of thinking? Isn't that an Einstein quote? That you can't solve a problem with the same level of thinking that created it. Well, then change your level of thinking. I'll show you how to do it in the fastest way possible. So now relationships. Well, yeah, there's relationships with people in the TechnoTutor world, and people through Jin and other groups I'm part of that are great. But really, I want to talk about partnership, like committed partnership with another person, where you're committed in agreement to go through life together, whether it's boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife, whatever label you want to give it. So I had been looking at what kind of life, what is the best life for me. And I know that I need a female partner who is able to walk side by side with me to support me. I don't live a normal life in the sense that at 5 p.m. I don't come home from work and turn on the sports game and drink a beer. That's not me. That's not best. That's not what I'm here to do. I still enjoy things in my life. I still have a freaking awesome life, but I know that there is a type of woman that is very compatible for me, as I'm sure you're aware of that too. You have some ideal version of this husband, wife, whatever, that is compatible with you, right? We all want some form of partnership, companionship. So I got immense support. So part of TechnoTutor is the support you get. I spent hours on the phone with all different people, and they all gave me feedback and listened to me and supported me to then get clear. Then within TechnoTutor, you can do something called custom lists. And I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty of that, but there's a way you can put in the phrases and goals and different types of things that you want to have happen, so you can see it in your reality when it's there. So I put in all these phrases of like, this is the kind of woman that I want in my life. And this is who I want to be. I want to be someone who's fun, who's not stressed out, who enjoys life, who can take vacations, who can be stable, who can provide, like things like that. And you just put it all in TechnoTutor. And then sometimes it's a day later, sometimes it's 3 months later, that thing will come in. And it's on you to see it and act on it. But that's how the mind works. You just program it and it runs like a computer. It's so simple, but you've just never seen that you can actually program it. Maybe you think you're programming it with listening to some like YouTube videos or something. I promise you that's still just going through the conscious mind. And like we said, that's like trying to get that starving child to just think their way to food. In reality, you got to actually give yourself the food, and you can do that through the high-speed way that TechnoTutor works. So I put in all that stuff. of who I want to be, who I want the girl to be, just really pulling apart all these things and letting go of all the limitations I was accepting within myself. We get programmed hardcore by the media and by our parents, or lack of parents, by what we think a relationship should look like. And we think of this like perfect 10 girl who's like just like in the movies, and she's always happy and bubbly and warm and smiling and whatever. That is not actually reality. That's your mind and your imagination. But you can set it up so that you do create that reality, and you actually create an even better reality where you have a partner who you see eye to eye with. So then I found Jessica. We'd been working together for a while, and then just through how everything unfolded, I just saw the common sense of it, and I was just approached her and brought up to her that I want to be in a relationship with her, and she agreed. And it's been the coolest, most fulfilling experience ever. It's not like um, a super high where we're like, oh my god, we should be together, and there's fireworks going off and like romantic like violin player with the candles and everything. Like, we will still have that, but it's not like we had this super high emotional experience to then be followed by a crash. Because how many of y'all have had that, heard of honeymoon phase? And it's like the most romantic, amazing thing, and you feel so good, but you never actually make an agreement. That's why the divorce rate's so high. That's why couples are so unhappy. That's why couples will be sitting together in the same room and they'll both be scrolling on Instagram, looking at other people that they want to be with. That is a pandemic that's happening right now. Couples are not prepared for being able to walk together side by side, especially through the hard times that are coming. There's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to be happening over the next year, especially up to the election, where we're going to need couples that can support each other. And then outside the couples with couple friends. And it's pretty freaking cool what we've created with our groups of people that use TechnoTutor, and they use it with each other, with themselves. And then as couples, we hang out. It is so cool. It's really the next level of, it's like the next 1%, you could say. But people who are rising to the top in society, not because they want to be at the top and have people below them, but because we realize to actually create a better world, you have to get to high levels so then you can change it on a systemic level. And that's what we're about with TechnoTutor. I'll get into that in a little bit, but on the point specifically with Jess, she's awesome. She's teachable, and she uses TechnoTutor herself every day. And by teachable, if you never heard that word before, by that it just means you're willing to get feedback. Have you ever met someone who's not teachable? Like, no matter what you say, they're like, yeah, I'm good. Like, I don't really need that. Like, you don't want to be with a person like that. If that person's not willing to change, I mean, you better be prepared for that for life then. Contrast that to someone who really wants to contrast that with someone who really wants to be a consistently improving version of themselves. Not where they're like never happy, because you got to be able to appreciate where you're at, as Jess and I both do, but someone who finds joy in expanding, because that's, I mean, when you get to the point where you love growing, I mean, your whole life will open up like way more than was ever possible before you made that decision to open up and level up. So that's been really cool with Jess. Then on top of that, because that agreement, so we formed that agreement back in April of this year, and so now we're like 3 to 4 months in, and it's been going really well. So times where like we don't bicker, we don't nitpick, we don't say comments behind each other's back. Like, there's literally none of that. And there will be times where one of us will be challenged with something, or maybe we didn't understand each other. But like I said, with TechnoTutor, after a while, you start to notice the thoughts before you express them. So she'll give me some kind of look, and in the past I'd be like, oh, is she like trying to give me that look or something? And I'd be like, oh, I would just react. Instead of now, it's like I notice that thought come up, and then I'll breathe and I'll say, hey, I noticed you kind of made this look. Like, are you upset about something? Or maybe I'm just seeing it. She's like, what are you talking about? I'm not upset. And I'm like, oh, cool. Wow. that was pretty insightful. So now it's like, imagine if I would have just reacted, where that would have taken the conversation versus me just catching it, bringing it up. I mean, that's a totally different outcome that just unfolded. Now imagine 10 of those a day over 10 days, right? That's 100 different decisions that are now on a better track. Think how that adds up over time. And think about the alternative, right? Okay, so now that TechnoTutor helped me get, without TechnoTutor, I would not be able to have even handled this relationship with Jess. And I know vice versa, like her and I have that common point. So we know each other's working through their stuff and that we hold each other accountable. We can actually trust each other. It's phenomenal. If you've never had a relationship where you can fundamentally trust the other person, you're missing out on what's possible, because it is possible. And even if you don't know how to get there, reach out and I will support you to just establish that within yourself. And we have tons of people in our groups that are all young, eligible, young people who want relationships and want to have an awesome life. And we can introduce people. Like we literally have a couple that met through these groups and now they're in a committed partnership. And it's phenomenal. They're so cool. And they're going to be insanely successful in the world. And it's because we come to these commonalities with using TechnoTutor, for example. So on top of that individual relationship, I want to talk about community. I've been building community like I never thought possible. It's just automatic now. It's like a wonderful consequence of when I've just leveled myself up so that all the time I'm just thinking how I want to be thinking. Instead of having stupid thoughts about things that have nothing to do with reality, like I used to think all the time. And I used to be stuck in my head, overthinking things, second guessing myself, not being so sure, kind of not confident, kind of thinking I knew stuff. Like I used to just be a mess a year ago. Now it's just inevitable that I meet people and make friends and that I connect with people online and we talk about cool things and we're connecting people. So for example, here in Minneapolis and St. Paul, we now have a whole community that's built through a meetup, through the business of TechnoTutor, through people that are involved who are building, for example, community centers here in the city, to people doing youth mentorship programs, to people mentoring and educating their younger siblings with using TechnoTutor, to moms who now have access to the tool to do tutoring with local neighborhood kids. So that's a side source of cash and money. To people in general who just use it for themselves. That's all real community that's here. And even during coronavirus, we still meet up, we respect social distance, all that, whatever makes people feel comfortable, but we stay strong. No matter what case the outside world is in, we have real community based on real agreements and real mutual respect. And that over time, I mean, the next testimonial I make probably 6 months from now, or definitely a year from now, that will really be flourishing. So that's been really phenomenal. And on top of the local community that's here, there's national, so like on around the US, big community opening up in Orlando, in Houston, in California, in New York, of people where I can now go visit any of them at any time, and we will have a phenomenal, impactful conversation, meetings, things like that. And these are people that they're just part of this network. It's really next level, and if you're not part of it, you should really consider joining. I mean, we're going to be around for life, but that doesn't mean you should delay. Like how much more pain do you have to go through before you make a decision to actually improve your life? Last part I want to talk about is communities and online. So we're in a time where Facebook is still a thing. Who knows if it's going to be around in the future with all the cancel culture and censoring and just in general, the way technology is headed, there's going to be a lot more voice, a lot more augmented reality and virtual reality. So even Facebook's going to evolve. But for right now, I mean, we have a phenomenal Facebook group called Self-Perfected, and it's people that are interested in self-perfection. So beyond just self-development, real people who actually want to take responsibility for this world and make it a better place. Even if that's as simple as just raising your kids to be awesome humans, or you want to be a firefighter, you want to be a local school teacher, whatever it is, or if you want to become a billionaire and get into politics, anyone in between. We all just agree on developing ourselves and perfecting ourselves. And then we have a podcast, a self-perfected podcast, which is really fun. And that's people who all use TechnoTutor. And now we can get on a podcast and just go and just riff. And that would not be possible for me before. But because I have such a command of the English language, thanks to TechnoTutor, and the ability to articulate and express myself and really know what I'm talking about. And now I can have real conversation with people like in the podcast and understand what they're saying and then bring it back to bringing value to the listeners. It's phenomenal. It is so freaking cool. And like I said, it's because TT, I mean, hands down, without this tool, I wouldn't have that ability to operate like that. Okay, last two parts of this testimonial video is so health, and then I'll go into the happiness and overall like just enjoyment of life. So health, think about this. If you can't read fast and you can't process information, and you could like, have you ever tried to look up health regimens and stuff online? It's pretty hard. I used to just resort to, well, I'll just watch YouTube videos or Instagram, and I'll just look at the pictures because I was being lazy and I couldn't actually read. But now I can read 3 articles in the time it took me in the past to kind of get through one and not really make a difference. But now I'll read 3 articles from different schools of thought on something to do with health, and then I'll go actually just do the thing. Because it's one thing to know, oh yeah, in theory, I should drink more water and I should stretch before I go to bed. And I should avoid eating after 8 p.m. or whatever your thing is. One thing to know that in theory, it's another to actually live it and physically move your body and do that. Now I'm actually physically moving my body and doing that thing. So like, and then it's also pretty cool. I program in TechnoTutor. I remember to stretch. I remember to drink water, things like that. So now I'll be about to go to bed and that phrase will pop into my mind of, hey, I remember to stretch. Oh, okay. TechnoTutor doesn't stretch for me. I still got to go sit on the ground and put my legs out and reach and everything. But now it's fun because I've actually done it for about a month and a half and I'm getting the results. So it's so cool. So that's with health. I also just understand how things like building muscle work and how nutrition works and fasting and that, where before I got it in theory, but now I actually can comprehend why that happens. And again, that's comprehension. That's TT 101. All right, last part of this video is happiness overall. Let me just say this. If you don't have TechnoTutor, you're gonna be limited in your ability to create. Yes, every person is unique, but there are a few things we all have in common. We all learn and we all comprehend through words and pattern recognition. Everyone relates to words. Everyone has a vocabulary. There is a collective vocabulary of our world. There are different words and phrases and concepts that we all know. And if you have certain words, you can really get ahead in life. Like if you know what a trust is, and you understand things like compound interest, and you understand how business works and how to form one, and you understand the language of sales and persuasion and influence, you can really do a lot. You don't have to work your 9 to 5 anymore. If you know how to sell and you understand things like investing, that's vocabulary. Those are just words, but they're words with meaning. And so if you don't have TechnoTutor to support you, even if you're the most advanced, even if you're Donald Trump and you're running the US, or if you're Warren Buffett or Bill Gates or whoever, they're still learning. They're still reading words in a book or the report or whatever that they have to do. They're still addressing groups of people with words. So words are actually so fundamental. It's so fundamental that it's like a fish in water. You barely see it, but now you'll see it. So my reason for saying that is because if you know that you're limited to some extent, or you keep capping out, or you don't really trust yourself to keep leveling up and learning and developing, well, there's going to be a limit on your happiness. because then you're going to resort to little quick fixes like scrolling through Instagram and getting a dopamine hit because someone posted a GIF and you thought it was funny, GIF or however you say it, and you thought it was funny. It's like, oh, that's great. And then you're like an addict, a fiend, like looking through, oh, where's the next post? Where's the next post? Right? We've all been there. We've all got lost on Facebook or Instagram or something, and we just got blinded. But that's such shallow happiness. That's so surface level, and you're missing out on the depth of life and what's possible. Now, when was the last time you could just sit alone and just breathe and just be here and be present and like enjoy the fact that you're alive in a body? I mean, if you're watching this and you're in some desolate situation and some horrible things are happening and you don't have enough food to eat, like I realize that's a different thing. But if you have enough food so that you have a few meals a day and you have access to clean water and you're, in a shelter, like, are you able to just enjoy that? Can you see that for what it is? That's a phenomenal situation to be in. And yes, you still have a ways to go, but are you able to even enjoy that? Or are you overthinking and you want to pull your phone out because you're addicted to your phone? Or you're worrying about something your girlfriend or boyfriend said this morning and maybe there's a fight that's going to happen. And like, are you stuck in that? Because if you're tripping out in your mind and thinking about stuff, or if you're using substances like alcohol or marijuana or antidepressants or things like that, you're capping yourself out on what's possible. And yes, there's a time and place for medication. I am not trying to downplay that. But are you taking responsibility to actually support yourself to be able to handle more in your life? Because that's what this is about. So I acknowledge that this video in TechnoTutor is, some people are going to be triggered by this. Some people are going to not want to change. And you're just going to think that you're like you're good and you don't need it. But for you, okay, go do your thing. You'll be back around. But for the people who are really serious and they're tired of having their life kind of suck and they kind of go up and they kind of go down, if that's you, just reach out. Let's have a conversation. I won't try and sell you TechnoTutor on the spot, though I know TechnoTutor is going to support you, but I'm down to work with you and develop a real relationship first, because there's no one size fits all with this. But I stand behind TechnoTutor fully. I know that if you use it, you will experience massive results and you can get to any point in your life that you want to get to, provided you apply yourself. And I will support you every step of the way because I stand by this tool. It works hands down. And I'm here on this planet. And part of my purpose that I've defined for myself is to support the world so that it becomes best for everybody. So that means I want to see you as the best version of yourself. And it's absolutely possible. It's going to take a little time, it's going to take a little effort, but I promise you it's going to be the most fun thing that you could do anyway. So thank you everyone for watching. If you have comments or questions, you can send me a private message. That way we can talk more in depth. If you do leave a comment, that's cool. I will get back to them as they come in. But that is why I use TechnoTutor a year later. I will use it for another 10, 20, 100 years. Like if this is the results I'm already getting and every day it's getting even better, I'm going to keep using it. And so I encourage you to at least investigate it for yourself. I can chat with any one of you about it, answer your questions that you have. And until then, well, let's make some moves because the world needs us to actually step up and start doing more. So thanks for watching, everyone. Talk soon.